Welcome back to another episode of the Karter Cast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. With me, as always, Dylan, Ben, Connor, AFC East Preview today. If you haven't checked out the other previews, all the college football ones, great ones. We previewed all four conferences. We already did the AFC North and South, and now we're going to do AFC East and then AFC West coming out tomorrow. So tune into that, subscribe, as always. But before we get into the show, we're brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use code KarterCast for $20 off your first purchase. $50 minimum purchase required. Terms and conditions apply. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use code KarterCast for $20 off your first purchase. Dylan.
Yeah, can I say something about SeatGeek real quick?
Yeah, you burned me last time, but I'll let you do it this time.
Well, you were getting a little too confident. You were thinking I have something every time.
No, you know the give me the money trend on TikTok. You did that to me. You did that to me live on the podcast.
It sounds so much worse when you explain it like that.
I was in bed last night and I couldn't sleep because I'm just sitting there thinking, "Wow, dude, Dylan just wrecked me. He wrecked."
Are we a trend podcast? Are we a trend podcast? We got that, and then we got the boom and doom. Like, what are we doing? Are we selling out? Are we selling out?
We did sell out.
I think the apple's rotten right to the core. There you go.
Please delete
instant
that.
clip.
SeatGeek code Karter. Actually, real quick, Karter, you said that you were laying in bed thinking about it. Is it like that meme where it's the guy laying the girl? The girl's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. And Karter, you were like, Dylan just did me dirty on the KarterCast with the SeatGeek promo.
Yeah, then it very much transitioned to Panthers might be bowl eligible this year.
Laying in bed thinking about Dylan doing you dirty. That's a little. I don't know if we put that on a quote card. Gosh.
Pause. SeatGeek code KarterCast. Use SeatGeek to purchase my tickets to Kirk Cousins' birthday party. Drove all the way to Atlanta. Guys, you would not believe the music. Great music all around at Kirk's birthday party.
Let me guess who played.
Yeah.
DaBaby.
No, Lecrae.
Lil Durk.
Lil Uzi Vert.
Lil
No,
Baby.
it was a lot of like Jimmy Eat World, Fall Out Boy, and All American Rejects. Great musical theatrical performance at his birthday
Kirk
party.
Cousins have a type.
Good music. That's all I
Okay.
got.
All right, there we go. I love it. All right, AFC East preview. Let's get into it right now. Let's start off at the top. Real quick, division as a whole. I feel like it's obviously a three-horse race in this division. You could talk me into any of these three teams really winning it. They all have a case to win this division, in my opinion. There's a reason that it's only plus 165 Bills, plus 170 Jets, plus 220 Dolphins. They're all in that range. Their win totals are all the same right there. Health is going to be a huge concern going in this division, but let's start at the top. Bills, plus 165 to win this division. Their win total's at 10.5. Josh Allen, the Bills return. Stephon Diggs, gone. Stephon Diggs, no longer a Buffalo Bill. That we're no longer we're getting Josh Allen, Diggs, trouble in paradise rumors, all this stuff. That stuff's gone. They have new receivers, and basically everything else is kind of the same in Buffalo outside of the receivers. I'll start with you, Dylan. What are your thoughts on the Bills?
Yeah, we touched on the Diggs loss. Obviously losing a great receiver. But, Connor, I think you touched on it with the Ravens. It might be addition by subtraction. It definitely seemed like there was something going on there, whether it was Diggs, whether it was Allen, whoever, the coaching. That might not actually end up hurting them too bad. I don't like the loss of Davis. I was a big Gabe Davis fan. They go out and get Curtis Samuel. He isn't really an awful wide receiver given the quarterback situation that he had in Washington. And then a lot of hype around Keon Coleman. Seems like a good dude and apparently has been impressing in camp early on. I look at the schedule. The thing we touched on before we started recording, it's a lot of these teams have had success, so they haven't changed a whole lot. Like, you still have Josh Allen. You still have a core for a lot of these teams. Looking at the schedule, it's obviously they're playing a division-winning schedule. At Baltimore, at Houston's not easy. At Detroit's not going to be easy. And then they have Kansas City at home, San Francisco at home. I think we're going to find ourselves with a big old roadblock at the top of this division, and that includes the Bills. Last year they came back from, I can't remember how many games back, but dethroned the Dolphins, and there's no reason to say the Bills can't win the division again this year.
Connor.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of good points there. My one thing with Stephon Diggs is, let me get this off. He's a great receiver. I'm not taking anything away from Stephon Diggs, the player. I think him being gone will be good for this Bills team because if it's less of a distraction. That whole off-the-field Diggs versus Allen distraction is their trouble in paradise in the locker room. Now, all of a sudden, that ego's gone. Josh Allen doesn't have to worry about feeding him the ball 10 targets a game, or he's going to get pissed and slam his helmet on the sideline, or go, tweet something or talk to the press. All of a sudden, that pressure's gone. There's no more ego. Allen can spread the ball around, whoever's open. The one thing I noticed about a lot of these guys on offense, the weapons, they're not necessarily proven commodities, but it's not going to be a problem if they don't get their targets, if they don't get their touches, if they don't get the ball enough. I think that's going to be big for Josh Allen. I think he's probably a pretty good bet to win MVP this year. I think he's going to be asked to do a lot more. If that O-line is average, they only gave up 24 sacks last year. Part of that's because Allen's so good at avoiding them. But if he's if the O-line's just average this year, I think Josh Allen's going to have a huge year number-wise. He's going to be running the ball a lot more. He's going to be hitting guys in stride, hitting some of these new weapons, and there's not going to be that pressure of like, man, Diggs hadn't got a target in the last 10 snaps. We got to get him the ball. We got to force it to him on 2nd and 9. So I love Josh Allen this year. I'm a big Josh Allen believer. As far as the team goes, they're not my pick to win the division. But I think they'll be fine. They're always a threat in the playoffs. I will always be scared of Josh Allen in the playoffs.
You know what's crazy? Yeah. I saw a stat. Apparently McDermott and Josh Allen have never gone below their win total in Buffalo.
Really?
That's crazy.
That's actually nuts. How many years have they been together?
I believe 6. I wrote it down.
6?
That's absurd. What was their win total last year?
I think 10.5.
Yeah. I think
and they ended up winning 11?
I think they went 11-6.
I think so.
That is what I will say about the Bills is them going 11-6 last year is like the quietest 11-6 ever because they were such a bad vibes team last year. Where you're like, they're like good, but they kind of stink, but they're like winning all these games. I do think the Stephon Diggs thing is interesting to just see if vibes change. I'm assuming they will because it was this very awkward position where everyone was like asking Josh Allen like, hey, Stephon Diggs, like, everything good there? And he had to pretend like, yes, it is good there. But we all know it wasn't. I think I have a lot of questions, too. They lost a lot. Especially, they lose a lot in the secondary, like Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer. All three of those guys are gone. The safeties you have to replace are you're replacing them with Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop, the safety out of Utah.
And DeMar Hamlin.
Yes, and DeMar Hamlin.
Like DeMar Hamlin is running with the ones in practice now.
He was snubbed of comeback player of the year. Anyway,
not in my eyes. Joe Flacco 250 to 1. Not snubbed in my eyes.
True. There we go. Beautiful. I wanted to be in love with this Bills team, but like I just can't get there. Like I think they'll be, winning 9-10 games. I don't dislike them. Josh Allen's there. Sean McDermott's there. They still got a lot of talent, but they are replacing receivers, a question mark. Offensive line's not necessarily a strength. They've never got a strong running back room. Like on offense, it feels like it's kind of like Josh Allen and sort of unproven or meh. And then on defense, like I like the front seven to a decent degree, but like the secondary, there's a lot of turnover. It's got some potential to still be good. There's a lot of question marks. I want to put them in that Bengals, Ravens, Chiefs, but like I just don't think they're quite there. I think this is like a 9-ish win team, and I also don't have them winning the division like Connor.
Well, to your point, Ben, I kind of feel that way about all three of these top teams in this division where I wanted to fall in love with one of them, but there's typically 1 to 2 glaring holes where you're like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can fully buy into this team. Let me ask you this question real quick. Also, to your point, Ben, where you're talking about they're a bad vibes team and all that last season. I remember we were doing podcasts week 9, 10, 11 last season of the NFL season where the Bills were like plus 250 to make the playoffs by that point. The Bills were dead in the water. It was over.
It was over.
Sean McDermott all of a sudden was, he's getting fired. I'm sitting here like, ooh, he's coming to the Carolina Panthers. Let's go. Frank Reich already gone. And then all of a sudden that Taliban quote comes out and they go 7-2.
I was gonna say the Taliban thing that got the boys fired up.
Yeah, however that worked. Oh my gosh.
You got a bunch of Patriots on that team. That's what it is.
Anyhow, but the Bills, I do worry because we're doing the Matt Milano, Von Miller thing. Like, okay, Matt Milano's hurt. Von Miller's old. Von Miller didn't get a sack all last season. I don't know. I like you said, Ben. I think I want to fall in love with this team, but I just can't. James Cook doesn't excite me by any means. He's got a little Najee Harris, vibes to him, maybe a little bit better,
Yep.
but he doesn't come off the screen. And I feel like that's just how the Bills' offense is. Like, no running back can be successful for some reason.
I wrote down, and I'm sure you guys will agree with this, among every division I've looked at, I think this is the division with the most question marks among teams that are considered elite. Dolphins, Bills, Jets, like those are all three like big playoff threats, but I think there's so many more question marks with these three teams in the AFC East than like the Bengals and the Ravens and the Chiefs, like some of these other teams that we consider that top tier. This division has three of those teams with so many question marks. Like you guys said, I went through every single team. I'm like, ooh, this could be a problem. Ooh, health here. Ooh, schedule here. Ooh, quarterback inconsistency here. And it's like, I don't love any of these AFC East teams. I really don't.
I think the winner of this division is the 4 seed.
Yeah, I think that's
crazy.
probably fair.
Yeah, I was gonna say I was just gonna ask one last question about the Bills before we moved on. Did they miss their window?
I feel like we ask this every year. I was big on this last year. I was huge on the Bills missing their window last year. I mean, the easy answer is yes. The easy answer is yes.
Yeah. Because I think Josh Allen, right? He gives you a high floor. Like, they're gonna be good. They're gonna be in playoff contention. But like, they used to be in that Bengals Chiefs tier. Remember? They're not anymore. I wanted to put them in there, but I just can't do it. They're just not there.
Yeah, it's just a matter of also how well do you draft, and can these like if Keon Coleman can step up in I keep calling him Stephon Diggs' way, then that kind of changes things. But the defense is getting older. You might be right, but I don't think they missed their window. I still think Josh Allen's too good. And I feel like you can piece things together. I think he covers up a lot of holes in Buffalo.
But there's so many good quarterbacks in the AFC. That's the other thing. It's like Lamar, he's arrived. They missed that window before Joe Burrow got really good in his second year. Like, that was their best chance. They have, I don't know. I don't know if it's fully shut, but it's almost there. It's cracked a little bit, but it's about to slam shut.
We're on the other side. We're on the other side, right?
One foot out the door.
I just think
someone would say, coat on.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think Josh Allen, like, obviously he's great. He makes up for a lot of issues. But I think like a lot of these other teams in the AFC also have elite quarterbacks who have less issues that they have to overcome because the rosters are better.
And they have a tough start to their schedule too. So reading schedules. Are we doing this?
We don't have to read it all, but like
no, 1 through 6, weeks 1 through 6. I'll read them. Dylan, I'll start with you. Weeks 1 through 6. Here we go. Home Cardinals, at Dolphins, Jags, at Ravens, at Texans, at Jets.
2-4 isn't crazy.
Yep.
That's not insane, and that's winning. That's beating the Cardinals and the Jags. I would say.
Yeah. 4 games on the road.
4 primetime games. You got Thursday night, Monday night, Sunday night, normal Monday night. Like, and then you have at Jets for one of those. You have at Baltimore for one of those, and you have at Miami for Thursday night. It's not the beginning is not easy. If you like the Bills, and I'm not saying I am taking them to win the division, I think they could. You would definitely want to wait until after week 6 because they're probably. I mean, I would say 2-4, 3-3 is not crazy for their start.
Yeah,
there's too many question marks in Buffalo. Like, really, like Matt Milano, I know you guys briefly touched on it. That's a huge blow. He might not play this year. It's something with his bicep or something. I don't know if it's fully torn or not. He will be out multiple weeks minimum. He was out all of last year. Huge loss for them last year. Ben touched on it. Both safeties gone. Quarterbacks are pretty solid. There's just too many question marks for them. And you're talking about Cardinals, Jags. You know I'm high on the Jags from the last preview. That's not an easy matchup.
So
Trevor Lawrence.
1-5. You're thinking 1-5 possible start.
That's possible.
I'm thinking possibly 1-5. I think they might steal one on the road in Houston, maybe. Like, let's not act like Houston's going to go 15-2 or something. They're very beatable. I still think 2-4 is the right answer, but don't pencil it in as Cardinals Jags automatically. I think 2-4 is very real in those first 6 weeks, though.
Yeah, and then after that, you're like, ooh, okay, Sean McDermott, what's your next crazy quote? Then I'll bet the Bills.
Yeah, Palestine. Something Palestinian.
All right, let's move on. Let's do the Jets. Jets are plus 170 for the division right now on FanDuel. Aaron Rodgers back. He got to play so much last season. That home opener, crazy on 9/11. Aaron Rodgers back. Offensive line, they bring in a lot of dudes. Breece Hall's healthy. He had a phenomenal season last year. The defense is always good. Hassan Reddick, who knows what's going on with that situation. Connor, I'll start with you with the Jets. How are we feeling about Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old, the Jets? Are the Jets actually a real contender to win this division?
The short answer is yes. Everything you think you knew about the Jets from last year, throw it out the window. Because a lot of these teams, I'm like, oh, let's look what they did last year, what they add, what they lose. Everything on offense, I think you have to trash. When you lose your starting quarterback, who you built your entire game plan around, who you brought in specific coordinators around, that is supposed to be your guy for the whole season. He plays one snap, and then you have to play Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian the rest of the year, and you still go 7-10. There's not much you can take from that season offensively. Here's the thing. They were dead last in a lot of categories. O-line's completely redone. They've got a couple veterans in there. Guys getting healthier. They were pretty injured last year across the O-line. My one question mark is with the weapons, honest to God. Who do we trust outside Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson? What's their depth chart looking like? I mean, running back depth, you've got
Braylon
Allen is the number 2. Yeah, but then like wide receiver-wise, Mike Williams from the Chargers, who is consistently injured. I think he's averaged like 4 missed games a year over the past 6 years. Xavier Gibson is your number 3. Alan Lazard's still there. But weapon-wise, what is Rodgers really working with? If teams game plan around Garrett Wilson, what's his other target? Tyler Conklin in the check down? I don't know. I think Rodgers is going to be fine this year. Going to be a little less mobile after that Achilles. So if the O-line can be decent, I think Rodgers and the Jets they'll be okay. Also, it helps they play the 4th easiest projected schedule in the league. I think that's another thing that we have to hit on.
Yeah, but also with the Rodgers thing, it has been overstated, but it is fair that he's 41 coming off the hardest injury to come back from with a torn Achilles. Plus, he's playing on arguably the second worst field in the league.
Yeah.
Behind the Commanders.
This team more than any other team is health is the biggest factor. I think you can go through a lot of teams and be like, oh, if they stay healthy. The Jets is really the one where it's like health is the factor. If one of those weapons goes down, if Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson misses a few weeks, that offense is cooked. If a couple O-linemen go down, Rodgers is going to be running for his life on a bad Achilles at age 41. So like this team more than any other team is relying on health. And that's not a bet that I'm like excited to make, betting on the Jets' health.
Yeah. I agree. Like, I think where I have issues with the Jets is, look, I do have a personal just disliking for Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to try to put that to the side.
Join the party, Ben. You and 500 other million people.
Yeah, but the Jets are a team where it's just so obvious. I think the issue, though, is that, like, if something goes wrong, that locker room it's done. It's done. Like, they are the most sensitive team in the NFL. They have Zach Wilson playing quarterback, and just the entire defense is throwing tantrums. Robert Sala's afraid. He's like, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to lose my job? You have freaking Nathaniel Hackett as your OC. I just think like Aaron Rodgers could get hurt in week 4, and then the Jets are trotting out Tyrod Taylor, and Aaron Rodgers is down in Puerto Rico Tyrod Taylor, and Aaron Rodgers down like Puerto Rico or something smoking crack. Like, you just don't know what's going to be happening. Like, I just don't. It's just hard to trust them because I feel like if something goes wrong, boom, GM's fired, head coach is fired, whole staff is fired. A ton of these defensive guys are going to want to get out. Like, this is the
Hassan Reddick already wants out. He hasn't played a snap for the Jets, and Hassan Reddick's already holding out.
He said, "No, I'm okay. I'm good." Okay.
And he was coming from Philadelphia.
Yeah. I just think like everything there on paper I like, but like you seem to have a lot of like just the defense is always pissed at the offense. I want to see how it goes if the offense is struggling and the defense is pissed at Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson, right? He just kind of took it. He's kind of like sheepish and is like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to take it. That could get ugly. That could get ugly within the locker room. And also, Aaron Rodgers will only throw to Garrett Wilson. He will only throw checkdowns to Breece Hall. Because something I know about Aaron Rodgers throughout the years is like you have like a 3-year ramp-up period before Aaron Rodgers even trusts to throw the ball to you for some reason. So he will only throw the ball to Garrett Wilson like all the time.
Garrett Wilson will have 1,200 yards.
Yeah. Yes, he is a fantasy like priority 1. Like you're going out and getting Garrett Wilson. I just think too few weapons. The O-line is better, but like I got to see it. Aaron Rodgers, 41, coming off an Achilles. He's prickly. The defense also is very good, but also prickly. So I want to see how that meshes. Like, it just felt like watching Hard Knocks. Sorry, I'm rambling at this point. But watching Hard Knocks last year, like, everything was all great. It's like, oh, yay, this is great. Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Just all goes down the crapper. Like, does something happen? Does Garrett Wilson get hurt and Aaron Rodgers throws a hissy fit and won't throw any of the receivers the ball and just keeps throwing the ball away? That's just like, that's the kind of, maybe I'm being unfair, but that's the personality and arrogance we're dealing with. And I could just see that going very poorly.
Yeah, with the Jets, I feel like every Patriots fan has brought this up over the years, and every fan of an AFC East team is, why do we think Robert Saleh is this great coach?
They were 7-10 last year. Did you see the quarterback room?
He's a good defensive coordinator. He's a good defensive coach. He's not a leader. He's not a leader.
But so, Ben, what you're essentially saying is that the New York Jets and the NFL are what Colorado is to college football.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Complete boomer bust, and things are very touchy, but they're going to be, first talk on every talk show because they're getting clicks. Everyone wants to know what's going on with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, but things could go very poorly very fast.
And if it is, it's over. Like, they're starting. They're like, okay, we're gonna try to keep Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, and then basically everybody else we're trying to move.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's gonna happen.
Dylan, thoughts on the Jets?
Yeah, real quick, to the Saleh thing, I think he's been given the benefit of the doubt just because of the quarterback situation, which I think that's fair.
Zach Wilson might be better than Aaron Rodgers. We'll see.
Doing what?
Remains to be seen.
What
Getting Taylor Swift's attention from our clip last year?
Getting his views?
Playing well on Sunday Night Football when Taylor Swift is in attendance. He's better than Aaron Rodgers at doing that.
No, I'm a stats guy. I can't argue with those stats. The numbers don't lie there. But I think everybody here has hit the nail on the head. It's like I was going through this preview. You can't do anything with the offense because of what it looked like last year. You can't use anything from last year because it's completely different. Now, you can take the defense. I think the defense will still be great. We talked about the offensive line, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses, two great pass blockers. And that was part of the issue last year was that the offensive line was just so bad. So I think we're going to see some improvement there. In terms of scheduling, at San Francisco, I know you guys aren't a believer in Pittsburgh, but it's never really easy to play at Heinz. And
fair.
Other than that, they host Houston. They do have a pretty easy schedule. But I think what Ben said specifically is correct. One thing goes wrong. Aaron Rodgers is a diva. We've seen that a little bit. He doesn't want to do anything that he's not going to do anything that he doesn't want to do. And when something goes wrong, it is going to be defense versus offense. And in years past, when the defense has gotten mad at the offense, you're right. It's Zach Wilson, young guy, kind of just, you got to take it. But then you get a veteran in there at quarterback, and I don't think he's going to stand for it. So it will be interesting. They benefit from an easy schedule. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we see the results.
Question.
Yes.
Is it a coincidence that the Jets' bye week is the election week?
Oh, no. That's deep analytics you're not going to get anywhere else.
Is it a coincidence that the Jets' bye week is during the election?
So what's your theory?
No.
I don't know.
I'm throwing it out there.
All of a sudden, Rodgers appears on the Republican ticket.
Carter,
vice president.
If RFK
Carter's just
makes
asking.
a nice comeback right now. I'm just
no.
doing journalism.
It would be great. It'd be fantastic if they started like what week's their bye week?
12.
When's the election, Ben? Come on, you're an American.
Okay, I don't. Okay. We get to week 11 and 12. They're like 5 and 6 going into the bye week, and Aaron Rodgers is like, you know what? I'm good. I'm just gonna get into politics and just quits football midseason.
We got stats guy on this. I don't see the Jets' bye week being election week. It's the last week of November.
They have two.
New York Jets, first week of November. They host
Houston.
Wrong?
Can I not do math? Might be editing this out.
No. I'm looking at the Jets schedule right now.
No. Thursday. They play Thursday night, so it's not a bye week.
So they get time. They get time to get their ducks in a row.
Yeah,
okay.
There we go. Okay, yeah. So
it's
a pseudo bye week.
Am I?
Yeah.
No, they don't. They play Sunday the 17th versus the Colts, and then not again until December 1st against the Seahawks.
Do you know when the election is?
Yeah, but they don't play Thursday. You guys are throwing me off with that. There's not a Thursday game in there.
Yes, there is.
Houston.
The election.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I see it.
I was really hoping that would get clipped, and it just wasn't even on a bye week. Like there was like
so it's not a bye week, but the Thursday. I see.
They don't have a bye week. It's like Carter's just going, I'm just asking questions, and we're like, we don't even know what question you're asking.
We can rephrase that. Is it a coincidence that they have 10 days off during election week?
Trump appoints him as like a new position, Secretary of Offense instead of Defense. Implement that air raid.
If the Jets start off 8-9-0, will RFK get elected?
These are the hard-hitting questions that you don't get anywhere
Meshing
else.
sports and politics and culture right here on the cast.
Yeah, oh my goodness. Real quick, I didn't really talk about the Jets. I'll go super quick. I think they're going to be good. We talked about Joe Burrow, Lamar, and all these guys. Okay, can they stay healthy? Can they stay healthy? This is the number one quarterback that matters in all of football right now. Can they stay healthy? Because it is the biggest question mark. He's 41 coming off a torn Achilles, like everyone mentions. I'm not willing to say that, but if they do and everyone is healthy, I think they are a 10-win team. That defense is so good with the easy schedule, with Aaron Rodgers playing at 70 to 80% of who he is. They're winning 10 games. If they went 7-10 last year, they're 3 wins better with a better offensive line and a much, much better quarterback. So I believe that, but I would never put my money behind this team winning 10 games and saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to stay healthy all season.
I'm with you on that. I think this is all that stuff I said about health. I think this is a 10-win team. I think at worst the defense is a top 7 unit. At worst,
absolutely.
Defense is going to be elite. And you talk about week 1 at San Francisco. That's a hard game. Obviously, they probably dropped that one. You look at weeks 2 through 5. Titans, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings. That's 4 wins right there. They'll be 4-1 going into week 6 against Buffalo. Vibes will be high right there. Vibes will be high in New York. I think there is a world
moving up the polls.
Yeah, I think there's a world where this Jets team hits a stride and does hit that double-digit win mark. I think I'm here, unless something horribly goes wrong with an injury. But you can't go into a season being like, oh, it's the Jets and something always goes wrong and somebody's going to get injured. It's only going to take you so far. I'm a believer. I think 10 wins. I think 10 wins is very doable.
So no one's picking them to win the division. Is that what I'm hearing?
We haven't officially gone through divisional winners yet.
Okay. All right. We'll do that at the very end then. All right, Dolphins. Let's move on. Dolphins win total's 9.5. Their odds to win the division is plus 220 on FanDuel right now. Basically, the same team returns. It's all same cast and characters that you know. Christian Wilkins gone on the defensive line, so there's a question mark there. But outside of that, it's really okay. Tua gets the contract. Can he take that next step? That's really the biggest question going into the Dolphin season. I'll start with you, Ben. Can Tua take that next step?
I'm going to say he doesn't take that next step, and if he does, it's because of the system he's in. I don't think he needs to take that next step for them to win the division, though.
Okay. All
and
right.
so I say he doesn't take the next step. I like them to win the division, though.
Yeah? Ooh. Okay, Dylan.
What is this next step you're talking about for Tua?
He just got paid. He's sitting pretty right now. He's comfortable. There's no pressure on him anymore, Dylan.
The problem
But
is...
I hear that, but
I also understand where Dylan's coming from, too, because you look at his stats, you're like, these stats are unbelievable.
passing yards leader last year. Great PFF grades last year.
Tua is the all-time... The eyes don't match the stats.
Oh, I wasn't disagreeing with Dylan.
What?
I wasn't going
But-
to disagree.
It doesn't
How so?
match. It doesn't match. And so I don't.
He's a lefty, Dylan.
Yeah, maybe
That's true. I'll give you that. The lefty throws me off.
The fact that it was a question that he might not get that max contract is out there. He's not in that Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Mahomes tier. I think he's in that tier right below them. And can he
But they
get
had to
that
pay him.
next year?
But
lefty
they had to pay him.
Dak.
What are you going to do if you don't pay Tua? Where do you go at quarterback after that?
Yeah.
Even though he's not a top 5 guy in the league,
No,
he
you
at
have
least
to pay
provides
him.
some consistency there. Like, that is your quarterback. So, like, everybody ripping on the Dolphins for paying him that much. Would you rather them start Skylar Thompson, go out and sign somebody like Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, something like that? Like, what are they going to do?
Cover the spread, so.
Look,
Skylar
like, I'm
Thompson
not
covered the spread against the Bills in the 2022 playoffs.
Fair.
It's true. I'm not the biggest Tua believer, kind of based off of, like, like what Karter was saying with the eye test, but like it's one of those things where if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's working. Like the same thing, like I'm not going to consider Jared Goff an elite quarterback, but with what's going on in Detroit and the way they've made that roster, it works. It's the same thing with Tua. They're in that, like, they'll never beat the allegations to a degree. Like the Jared Goff, like it's like a core four.
If
of
they win
Goff,
a Super Bowl, no
Tua,
one cares.
Dak, Kirk. Like those four are always going to be in this weird, like, are they good? Are they not good? And it really depends on the situation. I think Tua's in a good situation.
But they will 100% beat those allegations if they win a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, but like...
Because we used to talk about Matthew Stafford in that light. Matthew Stafford was in that Kirk Cousins to a Dak area.
Which was unfair.
Which it was unfair for sure. But you look at Matthew Stafford, the yards he was putting up in Detroit and the numbers he was putting up, it's kind of how Tua is right now. And then if the Dolphins make a Super Bowl and they have this this huge season, everyone's going to be like, Tua is this great quarterback. The recency bias is crazy in football. Think about last season. We had a new MVP every week. We're like, okay, can Dak win the MVP? Ooh, Tua might be the MVP. I don't know. Maybe it's Mahomes this time. Maybe
it's Brock Purdy.
Yeah, Brock Purdy. McCaffrey, can he do it? Up next on First Take. It's just crap like that. But Dylan, go ahead.
I don't know how I feel about the Tua discourse because it feels like he's given us every reason to believe that he is a top-tier quarterback, and for some reason people still want to just doubt it, and the scapegoat that is used is, McDaniel is an offensive mastermind. He's got Tyreek Hill. He's thrown to Jalen Waddle. But I understand that can work in his favor, but we've witnessed this guy get better and better as the years go by. Other than running, obviously, because the injuries, you don't see. He didn't really have great mobile ability in the first place, but like last year, his run grade went way down, and rightfully so. I think Tua deserved the contract, but as far as the offense goes, it really, like, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get the McDaniel offense. It's going to be a lot of motion. It's going to be fast. They're not going to pump the brakes, as I like to say. The defense is the biggest question for me. We saw that struggle all year last year, and I don't know if they did anything to fix that. They also fought the allegations of not being able to beat good teams, and they kind of proved that to be right as well. They do it in the playoffs as well. They don't really thrive in the playoffs. So I like the Dolphins. They're fun to watch. I don't know if I'll pick them to win the division, but the defense is what it is for me. You got to have that top-tier defense, and they haven't yet.
And that's where the Tua discourse lies, Dylan. That's where it all fell apart last season. That's where people were going, is this guy great, or is he just in a great system with Tyreek Hill because he can't beat those great teams? They were never beating those great teams last season.
But it almost feels like it's not exactly like the Purdy situation, but it's almost like we're using that as an excuse to say Tua's not that great when you have to have a baseline of talent to get the ball to him in the first place.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the other thing is where I don't think it matters. Who cares? Like, if you're a Dolphins fan, okay, people don't like Tua. Why do I care? If you're a Lions fan, Ben, people don't like Jared Goff. Who cares if they don't like him? You guys are winning football.
I like him. It's all that matters.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think that's where people have this problem with Tua because, like we always talk about, primetime games count as 3 to 4 more games than a normal 1 o'clock regular season game because everybody's watching it. And then when Tua loses to the Titans or loses a big game to the Chiefs or any of these other big teams and he never beats these big teams, he's going to fall into that Kirk Cousins camp where, yeah, the stats are great. 1 o'clock, he's phenomenal. But when everybody's watching those primetime games, your mind gets altered in this weird way where, I don't know about Tua, but then it takes 2 to 3 good regular season games to be like, ooh, Tua's good.
But that's where we as a show, we can hone in and harness our intellectual abilities and say, yeah, you guys are dumb because you just watched the primetime games. Tua's actually a good quarterback.
But at the same time, a good quarterback beats great teams.
Well,
it's the defense, though. The Titans last year. Think about the Titans game. The Miami's defense blew it. And Will Levis. We can't have that. We can't argue that. But Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, on the Tua discourse, there's always all this talk about, is it Tua or is it Mike McDaniel? Who's driving the success here? A lot of, it reminds me of Tom Brady, Bill Belichick debates. McDaniel's been great. Third best offense in 22. or fourth best offense in 22, third best last year. He's improved every year he's been there. Tua got paid, guaranteed money. That's going to just ruffle people's feathers. It just is. He might not be a top 5 quarterback by himself. If you put him in another system, sure, he's probably not as great.
But it doesn't matter.
I don't think it matters. I'm not going to say the same thing you guys did. I don't think it matters. I will offer this on the Tua discourse. You look at some of the numbers last year. Tua, 40th in EPA per attempt and 33rd in success rate among qualifying quarterbacks in the red zone. There are clear red zone issues there with Tua, and that's not necessarily McDaniel's fault. When you get down and there's 10 yards to go, it's goal to go. It's not so much offensive play call and design. It's more so making the right decision. There's a lot more pressure on quarterbacks in the red zone than there is play design or offensive scheme. So all those red zone shortcomings that Tua has, that's not on McDaniel. That's on him as a quarterback.
Can I say something that I feel like this is dumb football brain right here? Is it because they don't have a physical enough receiver? They just have speed guys.
I want to piggyback off that too. I would love to see what their run versus pass splits were in the red zone as well, because you think about their running back room. Like Mostert was fine. A-Chain, I always get it wrong. A-Chain, he was a good back, but he wasn't run it down your throat. He's
get outside the tackles.
So I think that could play a part in it. I would have to look at how many times they ran versus pass in the red zone. But you bring up a decent point there.
Yeah, I think here's the thing, and I'm going to be more in on the Dolphins than you guys are. Fourth most injured offensive line last year. Should have some positive injury regression this year. All they need to do is protect Tua and give him time. And in this McDaniel system, no matter who gets the credit, all that we know is Tua in this system works. He is what McDaniel needs in this system. It just works. Tyreek got paid. Jalen Waddle got paid. Odell joined on a very team-friendly deal. There are guys that are going to be happy. There's no contract issues hanging over the head. Everybody's paid. Everybody's got guaranteed money. Defense does concern me. Why don't you pay Christian Wilkins? Really? He's one of the best D linemen in football, and you can't shell out some money for him, but you'll shell out money for the offense. You need that defense to be consistent. Secondary's great. Front seven, too many question marks for me. Although, Shaq Barrett randomly retired too. That was a little weird. But I believe in this offense and McDaniel enough to where I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win the division. I think this is their division for the taking. I don't believe in the Bills' defense enough this year, especially with those injuries. And I'm also a little bit out on the Jets winning the division.
I agree.
Go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say that in an underrated, I think the offense got better, especially because you added Odell to that. You're getting everybody healthy. And another underrated, Carter, you're going to know where I'm going with this. An underrated pickup as a skill position guy is Malik Washington. Got him in the 4th round. He's a perfect fit for what they do, and I think he's going to have a lot of success this year. They're a team that I think, just out of default, just because I just think they have such a good offense, I think they're able to win this division. I do fear, though, right? We talked about the Bengals winning the AFC North. If the Dolphins draw the Ravens, I don't love that for them. Just because that's the problem with the Dolphins is they feel very matchup dependent. They're kind of they're stuck in this how cute thing right now. Ooh, you have this cute little offense. It scores a lot of points. And then you play some big, tough, physical teams.
Peel back the Band-Aid. You see what's really under there.
Yeah, and they're going to beat you up. They're going to spit you out, and you're going to lose in January. I think that's sort of the allegations. And I think if they haven't shown anything for me to be okay, they can beat Baltimore. And Baltimore is a nasty team. They are nasty.
One hindrance
that's a horrible matchup for the Dolphins, and that's how I see it matching up in the playoffs. So.
One hindrance for me with this Dolphins division bet is the D-line on paper is great. Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips both coming off major leg injuries, ACL, Achilles. If they can get back to 85, 90% of what they were, and that production off the edges there, then I feel so much better about this team. Because if they're getting pressure on quarterbacks, that secondary will hold up. But if there's no pressure, if Phillips and Chubb and whoever, they're shells of their former selves, then I don't feel as good anymore. Because all of a sudden it's going to be 41-38 games, just like we saw last year with Miami. Tua under pressure, completely different quarterback. O-line protects him. They got the weapons. I like the Dolphins this year. Out of all the teams in this division, I think there's the least amount of question marks with this Dolphins team. That's why I like them.
Okay. But the defense is still a big question mark, though.
It is. Anthony Weaver in from Baltimore. Third different coordinator in 3 years. So clearly something hasn't been working there. But they got the guys. The talent's there at least. At least the talent's there. At least I can see the vision.
Yeah. And we talked about with Lamar in the playoffs where it was unfair to say, okay, Lamar was bad in the playoffs. Oh, they only lost by 3. I feel like it's also unfair to pinpoint that Dolphins playoff loss this past season. It was minus 400 degrees in Kansas City. Like, I understand you got to play cold weather football, but that was one where it was different. That was probably one of the coldest games in NFL history, an unsafe place to play. So I feel like even in like 20-degree weather, I feel like that's a totally different ball game. I mean, you guys remember watching that game? People are dying in the stands of hypothermia.
Beers were freezing over.
Beers were freezing over. But
This might be small brain take as well, but I also kind of cut them some slack because they lost to the Super Bowl champions. Like, I mean, it's not like they got bounced by the Steelers or something. I mean, this was a team that went on to win it all.
And that was just a weird game whenever you're watching. But
Yeah.
Real quick with the Dolphins, all that matters for Dolphins fans, just win a playoff game. Just win one. Win one.
Yeah.
We're not talking – I know every Dolphins fan's going to say, oh, we want to win the Super Bowl. We're Super Bowl contenders, which is fair, obviously. But win a playoff game. That you've had the longest playoff drought forever. You haven't won one in 20-plus years. Haven't won a single playoff game. The Carolina Panthers have been to 2 Super Bowls before you've won a playoff game. Just really think about that. They just have to win a playoff game, and I think they can. And I actually really like the Dolphins this season. I agree with Connor. I think they have the least amount of question marks in this division. And I think Tua has a pretty big year this season. And I believe in Mike McDaniel so much. I mean, the offense is just unbelievable. The defense obviously has question marks that we talked about. But let's move on. Let's talk about the New England Patriots. The best team in this division? No longer. Their over-under's 4.5. They stink. They finished 4-13 last season. They draft Drake May. He's not going to start the season. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett to start. They draft a couple wide receivers, Polk from Washington and Baker. They lose Matthew Judon to the Falcons. Look, this is a rebuild year of rebuild years for the New England Patriots. We haven't seen anything like this in New England in forever. They tried to do that half rebuild year like how the Spurs did in that pop post-Tim Duncan era where, hey, DeMar DeRozan, you're cute. Hey, Mac Jones, come on in. Let's make a playoff and do nothing. And then that just prolonged nothing for 3 to 4 years. Now the Patriots are officially bad, potentially the worst team in football. Dylan, don't tell me you're going with a third straight team that's
Please,
finishing
Dylan.
that. You've picked the Steelers plus 950. You've picked the Titans plus 1,000. Don't tell me you're picking the Patriots plus 2,400.
One of them has to be right. Throw enough darts at the board, one of them's going to hit the center, right?
One of them hits and we have a great clip. And then also, oh my gosh, these guys know what they're talking about, right? I mean, am I right?
No.
Here,
Because then we have 7 where you don't know what you're talking
they don't pay attention to those.
They will initially.
It's like those parlay picks. It's like those parlay picks, Carter. We hit one parlay, we're good for 10 weeks.
That's true.
You're on TikTok, you see a parlay miss, skip, but then you see one hit. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys just did that. It's just how it works.
Nah. It's
Here's
more
what-
like, how dare you doubt Michigan, you incel. It's like, oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, that was fun. That was fun. We're all crazy online, every fan base. Patriots. Let's start with the positive. I think Jacoby Brissett is an upgrade for Mac Jones. In 2022 with the Browns, 82.6 offensive rating.
Okay, timeout.
I barely even got started, and you're interrupting.
I know,
me.
but timeout. Saying Jacoby Brissett's an upgrade from Mac Jones is being like, hey, I have an 01 Civic with 180,000 miles. I just upgraded to an 02 Civic with 170,000 miles.
And I think the point here is if you walk your butt down to any maintenance shop, the repairmen are going to tell you that the Honda Civic is a great car, a reliable car, worth your money. That's what they're going to tell you. I think Brissett is a step up from Mac Jones. I understand. I said I was being positive. 82.6 offensive rating in 2022 with the Browns, 91.5 rush rating. I think you could argue, this is the take I don't think everybody's going to like. I think you could argue that this is the best top to bottom quarterback room in the NFL. From 1 to 4, I think you could argue that.
What are you talking about? There's not one good one.
But why are we putting weight? But it's like, but their 4th string quarterback's better than any other. Who cares?
What if everybody gets COVID? What if all the quarterbacks get COVID and you're stuck with Joe?
We already did the politics segment. We did the politics segment, Dylan.
What if everybody breaks? I'm just saying. I was trying to find a positive here, boys, and I was
Okay.
I would say that front to back they have the best quarterback room. Listen, a rebuild's right.
It's a lot of depth.
I am going to bet on the Patriots to win the division because it's like 28 to 1.
Oh, my God.
But I think you guys are right. It's very clearly a rebuild, right? Mayo's first year. The offensive line is going to be very bad. I still think that there will be a competent defense. They were a competent defense last year, especially against the rush. But the offense, I mean, you look at this depth chart. Number one, there's a lot of red. Lots of O's and Q's. Who's wide receiver one here? Kendrick Bourne? That number one?
Yeah, they released Juju, so Kendrick Bourne.
So, you got Jalen Reagor. The fact that he's on an NFL roster. Yeah, it's going to be bad for the Patriots. I think that the defense will be okay. And Jacoby Brissett, like I said, will be an upgrade. He'll be kind of fun to watch, but overall, nothing going for this Patriots team. Easy schedule, too.
No,
Dylan, what?
What are you? Where are you getting your numbers?
No,
it's just
projected
games.
second hardest strength of schedule. You look at
we
the schedule.
Connor, you look at projected before the season and you look at the end of the season and see how hard the schedule actually was. I guarantee you that they will be vastly different across the board.
Do you see who they're playing? It's not questionable teams. It's like proven teams that will be good this year.
Every team, I have it written down. I have their schedule, their non-divisional games written down. So you consider the division. They're going to be playing the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets. They
have 4 games that I could maybe see them competing in. Tennessee, Chicago, Indianapolis, Arizona. Everything else is a surefire loss.
Seattle.
Maybe Seattle. So 5.
Did you say Chargers?
I would swap out Chicago for Seattle.
I agree.
Oh my gosh, no.
So
what
are we doing? So
Chicago
there's 5
too.
potential wins. So there's 5 potential games they could be in, and they're not going to win all those.
I would say Chargers as well. I would say Jacksonville and London.
No.
And
That's a home game.
Rams.
No,
That's what I would say.
I'm out on that.
I will go over 4.5 wins, but they won't win. Obviously, they can't win the division. The defense is just there. It's always been there in New England, and I trust that enough. You get an upgrade at quarterback.
Okay, you say the defense is still there, and they won 4 games.
Belichick's gone.
Quarterback.
He's the reason for that defense. Belichick is as bad of a head coach as he was at the end of his tenure there, as bad of a GM as he was recruiting players, getting guys in. He made magic on that defense last year. He did. Defense overperformed, kept them in games they shouldn't have been in. He's now gone.
But you also get an upgrade at quarterback, too. I don't think the defense will take that big of a step back without Belichick, if you want me to be completely honest. I think the wide
you lose probably your best defensive player.
I hear what you're saying, guys. I don't think that there's going to be any convincing here. I'm not trying to convince you guys. It's my sick brain. I don't think they're going to pull off anything crazy. But when we talk about the schedule, they do play in a tough division. Like, we talked about all these teams. Just keep that in mind.
Take the division out and look at their non-divisional games. It's still a gauntlet.
We just talked about it.
Bengals.
That's
San
tough. They'll lose
Francisco.
that one. They'll lose.
Houston. Jacksonville.
London.
Chargers. Yeah, like that's a tough non-division schedule.
I don't know.
Here's
I don't know
my
if I'm
thing with
buying
the
it.
Patriots. You keep saying rebuild. Did they even commit to a rebuild? Gerard Mayo's worked with Belichick since what, 2019? This is still more of like a retooling, like, oh, Mayo's been there with Belichick for the last 5 years, so we're going to keep the same system in place and just let Bill go. Is this really a full rebuild? Why didn't they hire somebody outside? Why didn't Mike Vrabel their head coaching right now?
That's fair.
I mean, Vrabel would have ran a very similar system to Belichick, if we're being honest.
But Gerard Mayo is part of the problem. It's not like he's brought in from outside, new voice, new blood. He's been there with Belichick.
But it's the players that they bring in. You draft a new quarterback. You bring in 2 new wide receivers. I think that's where the rebuild is, and they're basically gutting their team, saying, "Hey, we're going to be bad. Let's get in the draft."
Also, when you have like a Hall of Fame level coach, we see this in college basketball a lot. Roy Williams, Coach K. It's like you give it to the next guy that they kind of want in there, right? Like that kind of happens. I know it's different because Belichick will probably be like coaching a team next year, but it feels like when you are following like a dynasty and you're like, okay, we got to like move on, you kind of go to someone who's like connected to the guy you were with. It's kind of like a buffer period. If he doesn't work out, I anticipate them going just in a completely different direction. My one concern, as in a reason why I think they're the worst team in football, is because I have seen firsthand how Patriots guys who make their money and living playing for the Patriots look not under Bill Belichick. I've seen like all of those Trey Flowers. I've seen who's the linebacker? I'm talking about all these Lions guys. Duron Harmon, like all these dudes who came and played for Matt Patricia. Awful.
That's a problem in itself.
And then they go back to the Patriots. Then they go back to the Patriots, and they look good again. And the reason is because Bill Belichick held that together. Does Gerard Mayo have that same ability? I think that determines whether they're the fifth or fourth or third worst team in the NFL and the worst. Because if he's unable to keep that kind of defensive magic to keep these guys to be NFL caliber guys on defense specifically, they're bad.
Yeah. I think this is very simple. Bottom 5 quarterback situation, bottom 5 O-line, bottom 5 wide receiver room, Ramondre Stevenson, and who's their backup? Antonio Gibson. What's that as a running room? Bottom 6, bottom 7 for sure. Defensively, just traded Judon. Their best defensive guy still in the roster, Christian Barmore, has blood clots. He probably won't even play for quite a long time. There's no positives on this team. Secondary's pretty good. Christian Gonzalez has been a stud. But other than that, there's nothing you can point to where it's I'm excited about that. I can see that improving this year. I think that's really going to hold up well this year. They're bottom 5 in almost every position group on offense. I don't see it this year. And I feel bad for Drake May being thrown in the fire like this. Hopefully they don't play him until week 9. First eight.
No, he's not being thrown in the fire at all. He doesn't have to play.
Well, we'll see how long until he does play. I think they'll throw him in there sooner than people think.
I also see some cognitive dissonance. You feel bad for May? You didn't feel bad for Young?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Wow, he doesn't like the Panthers, actually. That's it.
Interesting.
Nah, just kidding.
That's it.
But their first 8 weeks, though, are brutal.
All their games look hard because they're a bad football team. Whenever you look at the schedule, you're lost.
Yeah, but if you just blindly looked at the schedule without knowing it was the Patriots, you would still say, man, those are 8 really good teams to start the season.
That's fair. The only thing I have on the Patriots this season is, look, they're going to be bad. They're going to be a top 5 draft pick team this season. If you're a Patriots fan, it's kind of a great feeling this season. There's a little thing where you can go, okay, we're not expected to win a single game this year. We can go in with 0 expectations. The only thing that matters for Patriots fans right now is at some point when Drake May does play the season, he proves he's a franchise quarterback. You see the potential in him where, okay, this is the guy for the future. That's all.
And you know the game to do it? You know the game to do it, Karter? Week 9 at Tennessee Titans. Drake May comes in, debut game. Shows up Will Levis in Nashville. 4 touchdowns, 350 yards. Patriots get their first win of the year against the Titans. Drake May's story begins.
We're going to run that bum out of Nashville. Oh, my gosh. He's going to be
talking
crying.
About Will Levis? You talking about Will
No,
Levis?
I'm talking about this May guy.
No, I think you're going to run
Smell
that
ya.
Will Levis, yeah. Anyhow, but yeah, I think the Patriots are going to stink. I think they're going to be terrible. But I do like Drake May. I just hope he's in a situation where it's not impossible to succeed like Bryce Young was in last season.
And that's how it's looking. That's how it's looking.
But I think they're doing the right thing by playing Brissett. Let Brissett take all the hits and move on with Drake May later on in the season. Not have him play as much. Do a Jordan Love kind of thing, but not as long. Jordan Love had to sit forever. Yeah. But anyhow, all right, let's wrap up here. Division winner, Dylan.
Give me Dolphins.
Ben.
Dolphins.
Connor.
I'm going Dolphins plus 220.
So I have to be the one to not do Dolphins because I had the Dolphins.
Do Dolphins.
We can just be chalk. That's fine. We don't push agendas.
We can be the college game day graphic. All right, I have Dolphins too. I really do. I think they have the least amount of question marks. Favorite bet, Dylan.
Go Pats over 4.5. Don't think the schedule is going to pan out as tough as people are saying.
Ben.
Jets under 9.5.
Love that.
Connor.
Patriots under 4.5.
I love it.
Let's go.
I'll go Dolphins over 9.5. I'll just back the division pick, or I'll just screw it. Dolphins plus 220 to win the division. There we go.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think 220 is a good number for them.
Yeah,
I think so too.
If
They
they're
shouldn't be
all
the
in that
third. Yeah.
They should all be in that 160 to 190 range, and you get to plus 220. I don't think they're that far behind the Bills and the Jets. But anyhow, all right, that does it from us. Make sure to tune into all the other previews. Download SeatGeek, use code CarterCast on your first purchase, $20 off. Follow us all on Twitter, @CarterCast on everything. Like and subscribe. Everything's in the episode description below. And check out all our college football and NFL previews, and we'll be back next time. We'll see y'all. Bye-bye.